Hi, hello, welcome to Victoria's Training and Review Center. Again, I am James M. Villon, and I will be the one who will be facilitating our discussion for today pertaining to principles and strategies of teaching. So, without so much further ado, let's start with teaching. So, how do we define teaching? So, it's an organized, purposeful, and deliberate efforts to bring about certain specifically desirable traits in an individual. While on the other hand, when we talk about learning, this pertains to the relatively permanent change in behavior or knowledge that is brought by experience. So we have the elements of teaching and learning. One, we have the learner. Two, we have the teacher. Next, we have the learning environment. Next, we have the curriculum, the materials of instruction, and the administration. Let's start discussing first the learner. All learners are equipped with cognitive and appetitive faculties. They differ, however, in the degree to which they are utilized because of ability, aptitude, interest, family and cultural background, and attitudes. Now, when we talk about cognitive, sorry for the spelling, this is cognitive, EDG. When we talk about the cognitive faculty, this pertains to senses, the sense of smelling, sense of tasting, the sense of seeing, the sense of feeling, and the sense of hearing. Imagination, the memory, the intellect, and of course the instinct of an individual. On the other hand, when we talk about the appetitive faculty, we refer that one to feelings and emotions and the will of the learner. Now, let's proceed with the Gardner's multiple intelligence theory. So Gardner says that these differences challenge an educational system that assumes that everyone can learn the same materials in the same way and that the uniform universal measure suffices to test student learning. So here in this theory, this calls that not everyone can learn in the same manner. So all of us, we have different intelligence, we have different aptitude and abilities. So that is why Gardner categorized this different intelligence into 9 categories. So we have one, the verbal, the mathematical, the spatial, the bodily kinesthetic, the musical, the interpersonal, the intrapersonal, the naturalist, and the existentialist. Now let's talk about the verbal first. Usually these verbal people, they love talking, they love writing, so technically they are linguists. They love words. They could easily put their ideas into writing, and they could easily express their ideas verbally, and they are very creative when it comes to presenting them. Now, when we talk mathematical intelligence, these are people who are very good in numbers. They're very good in mathematics. Special, on the other hand, they're very good in spaces. They could look at a design, and then they could actually imagine what could possibly be constructed by that design. So engineers are, aside from they are good in math, they could also be good in spatial, like puzzles, including puzzles and abstract reasoning, that belongs to spatial intelligence. Now, the bodily kinesthetic, these are the athletic people. They love dancing, they love movements, they do sports, and they are very excellent in any forms of body movement. Musical, on the other hand, they love music, they love sounds, they read notes, and the like. So they are very good singers and musical instrument players. Interpersonal, on the other hand, they are the people smart, because these people who possess this kind of intelligence, they could easily relate with other people. They know how to treat them well, and they could totally relate with them. So the intrapersonal, on the other hand, intrapersonal pertains to knowing yourself. You could introspect, you could reflect, and you know yourself very well. So this is very important also. Naturalist is a form of intelligence that pertains to environment, like loving plants, animals, Mother Earth. They have deep concern and different level of love to our environment. We have existentialists. These people love um, to philosophically ask questions like who is God, who created God, why things happen, and how do things happen. So these are the deepest thoughts in the world. These are the job of, or these are the nature of the existentialist people. So that's all. These are the nine Gardner's multiple intelligence theories. So I hope that you were able to catch all those things, guys. Now let's talk about the learning styles. So we have the auditory, the visual, the tactile, and the kinesthetic. Now, I would like to emphasize the very importance of identifying your learning style, because this would optimize and maximize your learning ability. Because if you are an auditory, you could create a mechanism wherein you will be able to learn even if you are not reading. Because you are auditory, you could easily retain information by just listening lectures and audio tapes or discussions. So here you could effectively grasp all the ideas if they are recorded or they are being listened by the person. On the other hand, when we talk about visual, they could capture, absorb, and retain new and difficult information by creating a picture in their minds, seeing a word or reading them. So word mapping, for instance, and reading hard copies of books are very suitable for the visual learners. The tactile, on the other hand, effective use of hand by doodling, highlighting, or taking notes to understand and retain new and difficult information. And number 4, we have the we have the kinesthetic, which pertains to physical movement. So you do not isolate yourself to only one learning style, because sometimes people are audiovisual, so meaning they listen and they also see things. They could be all, but you really need to determine what is among the 4, what is best for you, so that this would also help you in your preparation for the board exam, or even in your students or learners in the future. You could help them maximize their learning experience. Now, the teacher is a licensed professional, but this is also conflicting with teachers who do not yet possess the license to teach. So although they are still called teachers, but the law is requiring us to really possess license for us to be called licensed professional teachers. So licensed professional teachers who possesses dignity and reputation with high moral values, as well as technical and professional competence. Okay. So the teacher's role in the classroom are the following. We have the manager, the counselor, the motivator, the leader, the model, the public relations specialist, the parent, the facilitator, and the instructor. Manager, because the teacher is the one managing the classroom. So he or she has to manage it very well from all aspects, like the delivery of the instruction, the day-to-day routines of the children. So he or she has to see to it that everything is fine using the classroom management techniques. So we have also the counselor, because the teacher has the function also of guidance counseling. So aside from what we have learned, that whenever there are problems or behavioral problems that the students or learners have, usually we pertain or we refer them to guidance counselor automatically at the school. However, you really need to exhaust first your guidance counseling functions before you give or refer it to the guidance counselor at the school. So, okay, because teachers also are guidance counselors. Motivator, you need to motivate your learners. You have to inspire them in a day-to-day basis. Leader, because you need to lead them. You have to make decisions in the classroom. and you need to make sure that they follow your rules and regulations and they respect your authority. Model because whatever you do, they admire you. So whatever you do, that would also reflect to them. And whatever you do, that would be also their basis for their future decision making and future behavior. Public relations specialist because you really need to establish rapport and you really need to connect with your students also. Whenever there are problems, you are the ones who will be resolving that. Parent, we have the loco parente function, so second parents. So the moment our learners or the students go outside their home, from their home, so automatically your parenting function sets in. Facilitator of learning because you need to facilitate their learning. So you have to guide them, and part of guiding is to instruct. So you need to discuss some important details for them to grasp and for it to help them to have their own independent learning process also. Now let's talk about the learning environment, such as the physical environment, the intellectual climate, the social climate, and the emotional climate. So the physical environment talks about the location of the classroom, the size and shape of the classroom, and the provisions cleanliness of sanitation, cleanliness, and orderliness within the school premises. So it's very important that the location should be safe and secured. Safety must be emphasized as your priority. Size and shape of the classroom should be conducive for learning. And the provisions of sanitations like toilet, water should be available also within the classroom in order to ensure that the learning environment or the physical environment of the school is suitable for the learning environment of the children. The intellectual climate, on the other hand, pertains to the patterns of the behavior. So as a teacher, it's your job to determine the patterns of the behavior of your learners, the qualities of interaction and attributes that help students think critically and creatively. And of course, the social climate is we have the autocratic, the laissez-faire, and democratic climate. Now let's talk about the autocratic climate. So when we talk about the autocratic climate, the teacher is the law of the classroom. So siya ang batas ng classroom. So since he or she is the law of the classroom, the teacher makes all the decisions, and the teachers should impose all the decisions he or she made, and the students have to follow all the decisions, or else they will be punished accordingly. Laissez-faire, on the other hand, is a climate wherein it's a let-alone climate or settings. So the teacher does not impose anything as long as the students are doing their job. So this is very suitable when you have a group of students or learners who are self-reliant and independent when it comes to their learning. Now, on the other hand, when we talk about democratic climate, this is the most ideal classroom settings or social climate because there is an interaction between the students and the teacher. And when it comes to decision making, the teacher usually involves his or her students in the decision making. Now, in the emotional climate, learners must be given opportunities to make decisions and become increasingly self-directing. So that's very important also. Okay, the curriculum, it comes from the word kuriri, which means to run. So the course of program of study. So it's a sum total of all learning content, experiences, and resources that are properly selected, organized, and implemented by the school in the pursuit of its peculiar mandate as a distinct institution of learning and human development. Okay, so let's explore the different types of curriculum. One, we have the recommended curriculum, may come from the national agency like the Department of Education, the Commission on Higher Education, the Department of Science and Technology, or any professional organization at stake in education. The second is we have the written curriculum, documents, course of study, or syllabi handed down to schools, districts, division, departments, or colleges for implementation. Third is we have the taught curriculum, which are varied activities implemented in order to arrive at the objectives or purposes of the written curriculum. Varies also according to the learning styles of the students and learning styles of the teacher. So that is the taught curriculum. The supported curriculum includes materials, resources should enable real and lifelong learning. The assessed curriculum, on the other hand, is the tested or evaluated curriculum, utilize assessment tools. The learned curriculum are the learning outcomes achieved by the student. And last, we have the hidden curriculum, which is unintended and unplanned, the peer influence, school environment, physical conditions, and many others. Now, the materials of the instruction refers to the various resources available to the teachers and learners which help facilitate instruction and learning. We have tabs of audio-visual aids, we have the graphics, we have the models, we have the realia, the mock-ups, diorama, the puppet, recordings, and the radio. So I think the most uncommon here, we have diorama, the use of the 3D. We have the representation that can be resized, so that's diorama, puppets, recording piece of common, graphics, when we talk about realia from the word itself, real. So it's when we talk about leaves, so the teacher will present the materials, the real leaves. Yes. Okay. The administration involves the organization, direction, coordination, and control of all resources of the school, whether material or human, to meet the intended objectives. So when we speak about the curriculum, the common person that we could automatically associate with this word is the principal. But take note that the principal does not only monopolize the administration, because we also have higher ups like the division supervisor and the superintendent, and of course in the lower rank of the principal are the staff and the faculty, including the students also that are part of the administration, because they are stakeholders. Types of learning principles, we have the starting principle, the guiding principle, and of course the ending principle. So let's start with the starting principle. So the starting principle involves the psychological and physiological endowments of a child which makes education possible. So this pertains to the motivational activities that the teacher is doing before he or she starts with this class. And the guiding principle is how the teacher delivers the content of the lesson or the instruction. So this refers to the procedure, the methods of instruction, or the agglomeration of techniques by which the learner and the teacher may work together toward the accomplishment of goals or objectives. The ending principles, on the other hand, refers to the educational aims, goals, objectives, outcomes, purpose, or results of the whole educational scheme to which the teaching and learning are directed. Now let us define the aims, goals, and the objectives. So when we talk about aims, most general objectives of the Philippine education, such as prepare students for democratic citizenship. So this is an example of an aim. The goals is a description, or goals are descriptions of the general objectives of the school or courses. Example, development of reading skills, understanding of mathematical concepts, and appreciation of the arts. Objectives, on the other hand, are descriptions of what eventually takes place in the classroom. Example is, the student should distinguish all objectives indicating learning outcomes from a set of objectives having both learning outcomes and learning activities. So the basic principles of learning, we have um, the following. First, learning is an association process. Second, learning is an active or dynamic process. Third, learning is a process of integration. Fourth, learning is a process of growth and not apart from development. Fifth, learning is a goal-seeking or purposeful. Six, learning is creative. Seven, learning is a process of discovering and exploring. 8. Learning is understanding. 9. Learning is a social process integrating self-empowerment. 10. Learning is transferable. 11. Learning depends on context. 12. Learning is cooperative and collaborative process. 13. Learning is conditioned by personality of teacher. 14. Learning is a process of change. 15. Learning is an experience which occurs inside the learner and is activated by the learner. 16. Learning is the discovery of the personal meaning and relevance of ideas. 17. Learning is a consequence of experience. 18. Learning is an evolutionary process. 19. Learning is sometimes a painful process. And 20. The process of learning is emotional as well as intellectual. So, we will be continuing this discussion in the part 2 of this video. So, if you want to be updated with the video, you have to follow and like the page, our page in the Victorious Training and Review Center. And of course, you can also follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel, James and Vilon. So, we will be uploading all the videos there. So, do not forget to subscribe and support us, guys. Thank you very much and see you in the next video about the part 2 of teaching strategies. God bless.